I think that a lot of the things Fred Dagg did weren't jokes. They were to do with language and the way and the pace with which things are expressed. And only my own culture was ever going to understand that. If I'd done Fred Dagg in England, I would have to have done very much more jokey stuff.
Yes.
I'd have to have done much broader stuff. I couldn't have done anything terribly subtle. I mean, I'm not arguing that there was a lot of Fred Dagg that was infinitely subtle or anything, but there were parts of the way that the talk worked that would only have been understood by New Zealand, and I didn't have to do too much of it because in all of our heads, the rest of it was sitting there.
I think I've found a new calling in life. Gumboot throwing. I knew I had to be good at something. Maybe I'll retire to Taihape to be a full-time gumboot tosser. After a few warm-ups, I was handed a pair of regulation size 8 men's gumboots. Like golf, this is all about timing. If you relax, make sure the boot is facing forwards and release it with a fluid swing of your arm, it will fly with the grace of an eagle. I am proud to say that my best effort did just that, sailing past the end of the lane to about 28 metres.
Before the 1970s, New Zealanders tended to be entertained by imported English humour. Then television took hold and American sitcoms became popular. But on a serious weekly television show about farming called Country Calendar, which is still going, a mysterious farmer called Fred Dagg appeared. Wearing a black shearer's singlet, baggy khaki shorts and gumboots, Fred had a laconic delivery and an unmistakable New Zealand accent. The creation of comedian John Clarke, Fred Dagg delighted in lampooning rural New Zealand, and many of his jokes were at the expense of Taihape. Fred Dagg would refer to his time at Taihape's Gumboot University and label the town the Gumboot capital of the world. A gumboot is the Kiwi term for a pair of rubber Wellington boots. Most New Zealand farmers wear black gumboots on the farm as they are ideal footwear in mud and water. Though by the 1970s most New Zealanders lived in cities, Kiwis loved Fred Dagg. He was the first New Zealand comic to really use rural life as the wellspring of his humour. Fred performed on television and released records including Where Would You Be Without Your Gumboots and We Don't Know How Lucky We Are. Yet before long, Fred Dagg disappeared. John Clarke moved to Australia, where he established a highly successful career as a satirist, scriptwriter and performer. And the rural way of life that Fred Dagg portrayed so amusingly also disappeared. During the mid-1980s, the Labour government slashed agricultural subsidies. Faced with the withdrawal of taxpayer funding, farmers stopped spending. This impacted on rural towns that depended on farmers' checkbooks to survive. Taihape, a rural service centre, suffered more than most. At the same time, the government cut spending on New Zealand railways, the other main contributor to Taihape's economy. Thousands of jobs vanished throughout the country, lines closed and services were reduced. Taihape, situated on the main trunk line, faced an uncertain future. The town's population of 3,500 in the 1960s almost halved to around 1,800 in 1985. Faced with this crisis, concerned citizens gathered to brainstorm a solution. They decided that their town needed a new identity. It didn't take them long to realise that Fred Dagg might have the answer. Taihape branded itself the Gumboot capital of the world and celebrated with Gumboot Day. Held on Easter Tuesday 1985, the first Gumboot Day included gumboot throwing contests, Fred Dagg lookalike competitions and gumboot decorating. Its success encouraged the organisers to make it an annual fixture. The current record for gumboot throwing stands at just under 37 metres for men and nearly 25 metres for women. This is well short of the world record set in 1996 in Finland by Teppo Luoma, who hurled a boot nearly 64 metres. Taihape has now recovered from the dark days of the 1980s. As motorists approach Taihape from the north, they are greeted by a large corrugated iron sculpture of a gumboot, the work of renowned artist Jeff Thompson. Though the rail service is greatly reduced, motorists frequently stop for a coffee or meal at one of the cafes that have sprung up in the town. And Gumboot Day continues to attract visitors from New Zealand and overseas.